Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Hockey Report. It is Tuesday, November the 25th. As mentioned earlier this week, very weird week in the NHL because of American Thanksgiving, which means we have one entire hockey game to watch this evening, and it starts at 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you're on the East Coast, bit of a weird one. If you're on the West Coast, like Zach, you're living the dream. So Zach, we've got a one gamer. At least it features your Edmonton Oilers. At least it features the Dallas Stars. It should be at least a very fun hockey game tonight. So are you ready to dive into this one gamer, which will feature Stuart Skinner versus Jake Ottinger?
Perfect. We've already got some of the important stuff covered.
There we go. Off and running. As always, we do have charts. I have cautioned people before about using the charts on one game slate. It's not that they don't work. Like, you can still find edges with the charts. I just feel like they're not as sharp when you've only got a one game slate. So we'll dive into the projections, some of the matchup stuff, get through this pretty quickly, and let you build some lineups. You got about 5 hours until lock. So a lot of time here. The Oilers are pretty sizable favorites, and obviously not huge favorites, but minus 133 is a lot bigger than I think they would have been if Mikko Rantanen wasn't suspended. Obviously, plus 120 for the Dallas Stars, 3.4 implied total for this the Oilers, 2.9 implied total for the Stars. Zach, I'm going to take the lead here because I know you're going to have a lot to say about the Oilers in a bit, but I want to start with the Oilers' defensive numbers. We talked about it a lot early in the season that they had very polished defensive statistics and metrics for the first couple weeks of the season, like among the best in the league. And we were kind of looking at it and saying, okay, they might not be scoring like they normally do, but at least they're defending at a very, very high level. That is not the case anymore. Again, these team ratings are weighted, so they do consider the entirety of the season, but they also have additional weighting towards more recent games, the last couple of weeks. So the weighted 5v5 expected goals against for the Edmonton Oilers is third worst in the NHL right now, according to Sports Logic. That's bad. It's very bad, especially when you consider that the goal scoring still isn't necessarily where you'd think it would be. What have you seen from this team over the last couple of weeks that might raise some red flags for the Oilers against the Stars tonight?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like defending off the rush for the Edmonton Oilers. The Dallas Stars are a team that really excels at attacking off of the rush. For the Edmonton Oilers, that has probably been one of the biggest issues for them this season. That has probably led to a lot of these poor metrics that we're seeing from the club so far this year. You know, I will say it feels like this 7-game road trip they're just coming off of, they turned a little bit of a corner. The numbers don't necessarily bear it out, but the feel around the team is that they've turned a little bit of a corner here in their season. You know, not that it really plays a whole lot into it, but the Oilers' travel schedule has been brutal this season. They've played 25 games in 48 days to start the year here, which is an absurd amount of hockey in such a short amount of time. So I think for this team, like, this is a spot here against Dallas tonight where they're going to want to come out and get a win. This is a team that the Oilers are, you know, like, I wouldn't say they're rivals with or anything like that, but, you know, they've knocked them out of the playoffs a couple times in recent years. There's been some great regular season battles back and forth between these two teams as well. So, you know, I think in this spot too, like, you know, no Mikko Rantanen, this is still a banged up Stars team. I do like the Oilers side of this game here tonight, but I mean, I think this God has all the makeup of a high scoring affair here between these two sides.
Yeah, just to give you some numbers to back up what you said earlier in terms of rush chances. Again, according to Sports Logic, the Edmonton Oilers give up the fourth most rush chances in the NHL. Dallas, you know, towards the bottom of the league as well. They give up plenty off the rush. The Oilers, surprisingly, you would think the Oilers would be a team that just dominate on the rush. They're actually below average offensively. Dallas about league average. So with both of these teams kind of, you know, not great at defending off the rush. I think with both of these teams, specifically the Oilers not defending particularly well. I do think that this could turn into a higher scoring game. I think the way that happens is the Oilers have to try to dictate the pace a little bit and get the Stars out of their defensive shell, right? We've talked about it a lot with the Stars. Very good defensive club that does a lot of like nothing at 5v5. They don't really take a lot of chances. There's not a lot of volume. They kind of, you know, a lot of possession and try to find, you know, high danger chances, but don't give up, a lot defensively. But it comes at the expense of their offense. So the Oilers really got to try to drag them into a bit of a high scoring game tonight, I think, if they want a chance in this one. I shouldn't say a chance, they're obviously favorites, but I like the Stars, do like the Oilers, so this should be an interesting show for sure. Okay, stacks obviously still important in Showdown. We don't do a lot of Showdown breakdowns, but stacks still important. You still want correlation, obviously. So you still want to have players that are playing together, whether it be on at 5-on-5 or whether it be on the power play, because you want them picking up points together in bunches. So the lines for the Oilers, Zach, we'll get into it. Let's start there with Edmonton 1. They grade out number 1. This is a bit of a hodgepodge in terms of a sample, but I used actual wowies tonight, which is with or without you, and actual stats when these guys are playing together, opposed to the weighted stuff I've been using most of the season. And the numbers are really, really good for Edmonton 1. So what I did was I basically took a look and combined anytime that these three have played together, anytime that McDavid has played with Savoy without Leon, and anytime he's played with Roslovic without Leon. So all of these stats are completely disregarding any time that Leon was moved up to the McDavid line, and they're still unbelievable. Maybe not the converting of the way you'd think they would, but these underlying metrics are outstanding, and you got to think that this is a line that you obviously want to target tonight. The issue is these defensive metrics are astoundingly bad. Horrific, you might say. So that's going to be very interesting. Who they're going to play against tonight is kind of a mixture, so it doesn't really have a drastic effect on the Dallas Stars. The Oilers don't really match up a ton on home ice, or haven't been in the last couple games, which is what these stats look at. This is mostly their most recent Columbus game. Which is, like you said, they've been on traveling a lot. So it's been a while. Like, we really don't have a look of how they're going to match up with this current lineup, unfortunately. This is the closest I could kind of recreate. So nonetheless, Dallas 1 and Dallas 2 are both going to see a healthy amount of ice time against Edmonton 1 tonight, which struggles mightily defensively. You got to think that Dallas 1, Dallas 2, and particularly Dallas 2, when those two are on the ice with Edmonton 1 and Dallas 2 head to head, it's going to be just pond hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see this being absolutely back and forth. I think for me, it wouldn't surprise me to see the Oilers go 1-on-1, 2-on-2, and then bottom 6 against bottom 6 here. The Leon Draisaitl line has been, like, the numbers don't really bear it out there, but they are a better defensive line than that top line for certain. So I think for me, like, that's going to be the real interesting matchup here, is kind of how things get deployed here. I think this is going to be a wide open game, right? And I mean, when we talk about showdown slates too, like, roster construction is such a key thing, right? So, what are you looking at from your captain spot? Well, you're looking at, people who have the upside to score. And people who are going to kind of lead the charge offensively. So, when you look at this Oilers top line, I think you can make an argument for McDavid captains. Obviously, that kind of goes without saying. I think Jack Roslovic at $7,600 is going to be a really viable captain here on this slate tonight as well. He's been tremendous. Those offensive metrics have been great, and Roslovic has been a big engine behind that this season. He was boosting Leon Draisaitl's numbers as well on that second line. He's been just a tremendous play driver, really, for a number of years, pretty much everywhere he's gone. So, I think for me, like, playing 20 lineups tonight, certainly going to have some McDavid captains, certainly going to have some Roslovic, maybe sprinkle in 1 or 2 Savoys. I think he's an interesting value option. He got on the board with his third goal of the year, rather, on Saturday night against the Florida Panthers. So he's been playing well. The coaching staff certainly trusts him here in Edmonton. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see what happens here with this top line. Obviously, it's going to be a tough matchup. But the Oilers have had success against Dallas in the past. Specifically Connor McDavid, 24 games played, 13 goals, and 34 points.
Yeah, I took a look while you were chatting there at some other Oilers games, on home ice a little bit more recently, and especially the game against the Rangers, where they have kind of a similar build to the Dallas Stars, in which they've got two pretty good top lines. Then their depth is kind of a little bit more wishy-washy, where you would imagine that the Oilers would want to try to match up with the good lines as much as they can. in that game against the Rangers, it was a lot of what you see here where it's a little bit of both, but it was actually a lot more McDavid against the Panarin line, which I would imagine you would probably treat similarly to the Robertson line. And then it was a lot of Draisaitl against the JT Miller line, which is similar to how they probably treat Wyatt Johnson tonight. So if you take a look at that, and let's say we change these numbers here where it's a lot more McDavid against Dallas 1 and a lot more Leon against Dallas 2, I think that opens up a potentially nice build of Dallas 1 taking advantage of some of the defensive deficiencies of Edmonton 1, and then maybe Edmonton 2 being a little bit more of a sneaky play, taking advantage of the worst defensive line for the Dallas Stars. I think that we don't have projected ownership from Roto Grinders tonight, unfortunately, but I would imagine that Dallas 1 will be the most popular Dallas line, and Edmonton 1 will be the most popular Edmonton line. So I do think that the Draisaitl line will be a little sneaky tonight. And if the matchups look a little bit more like the Rangers game than they did the Blue Jackets game, I think, Leon, Mangiapane, and Podkolzin are going to be under-owned tonight for sure and could potentially have a big night.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned that, ownership at numbers actually just dropped from Roto Grinders.
Okay. I'll try
Just
to add them in as we go here then. So
yeah, and I'm just going to pull them up myself here so we can start to get a look at things.
Usually they're posted by 2:30 today. With one game, I could see why maybe take the day off a little bit. But yeah, you're right. 10 minutes ago, we just went live at the worst possible time. Let me see if I can get these added in on the show. Do you have any particular part of the game you want to break down as I add these to the sheet?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always worth mentioning the way the Oilers utilize McDavid and Draisaitl. If you're going for McDavid and Draisaitl builds, that's certainly a viable route. They play about 35% of their ice time at 5-on-5 together. Obviously, they're out there on the top power play unit. After a successful penalty kill, the Oilers will pretty much always throw out McDavid and Draisaitl on that following shift. So, there's builds that are certainly viable with McDavid and Draisaitl. You just have to kind of find the right value pieces around them. We talk about looking at punt plays. Punt defensemen on showdown slates are absolutely a viable route to go. There's some 2K. There's a number of cheap defensemen here on this slate tonight. Alec Regula, Brett Kulak, Ty Emberson, Kyle Capobianco, Vladislav Kolon. Oh, I'm not even going to be able to pronounce this one. How does it go again?
Your guess is as good as mine on that one.
We'll just call him Vladdy, and Leon Bichelle. All of these guys under $2,600 tonight. I think the Oilers defenseman on this side here, Brett Kulak, Ty Emberson, probably offer the highest upside of these floor plays. They've been having some pretty solid floor values here as of late. So, there's certainly routes to go. Attacking from that perspective. So, Draisaitl captains, I'm comfortable putting McDavid in there, comfortable with Roslovic. Zach Hyman, obviously on the third line. He's a guy that's drawing some ownership tonight, 13%. But, when you really look at the forward ownership on this slate here, McDavid drawing a lot of it on the Oilers side, 54%, 38% on Leon Draisaitl, Robertson, Hintz, Wyatt Johnston. Basically every other forward is under like 20% here on the slate tonight. So I think there's certainly ways to get different within the forward ranks. And even defensively, it seems like the public is getting to a lot of the different defenders here tonight. A guy like Brett Kulak, 33% of the ownership tonight, like Ty Emberson's drawing 20%. So the public is certainly seeing these guys as some value plays. So just have to figure out a way to kind of get yourself a little bit different from the rest of that field.
Yeah, I'm just finishing up getting ownership added in. It is Vladislav Kolyachonok. It's a tough one. I feel like I pride myself on being pretty good, but some names get me. That one is definitely one that I'm going to struggle with probably forever. Okay, let's pull up some ownership numbers here now that we've got them added in. That's the wrong sheet. Here we go. 57% for Robertson, 54% for McDavid. Let's make it a little bit bigger for y'all at home. So yeah, basically exactly what I was expecting. A little bit more ownership on Leon than maybe. I guess Leon I always expected to be popular, but not maybe so much as line mates, which is what I had said. Where do we got here? We've got Podkolzin 5%, Mangiapane 1%. So yeah, I do think that Edmonton 2 is a really sneaky option tonight. Back to your point about some of these value options, for us, it's, I think that obviously Brett Kulak grades out pretty well, but Alex Petrovic's probably my preferred option. I talked about him a little bit the other day, seeing north of 20 minutes, doing a lot of shit, blocking a lot of shots. I believe he's projected for, like the fourth most blocked shots tonight, over 20 minutes at $3,800. I think like the way things have gone here with this Dallas Stars blue line as of late, he makes a lot of sense. You mentioned Leon Bichelle. I think Liam Michelle makes sense as well. He's seeing just 7% ownership, $2,600, super cheap. He's over 20 minutes a night as well. It's a shame that hits aren't counted on DraftKings because he's going to get about 12 tonight. But he's over 20 minutes for $2,600 defenseman there. I think that's fine. Kulak obviously at minimum price is gonna be fine as well. I think they all kind of make a little bit of sense. But Zach, I texted you before the show started. Here's the last 3 games from Miro Heiskanen. Last game, 32 minutes, 47 seconds. It went to overtime. I think it went to a shootout, actually. 28-13 the game before, and 27-21 the night before that. So he's averaging like 29 minutes per game over his last 3 games. That's a guy that I'm super interested in. We've got him projected for north of 28 minutes tonight. At just 27% ownership, Miro, I think, is somebody that I'm going to be way over the field on tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 27% ownership is far too low for me. That's certainly a spot that I'll be over the field on as well. So I think that's certainly an interesting route to go. I mean, listen, the power play for Dallas has been tremendous. They come into this game with the number 1 power play matchup on the entire slate.
Big slate.
Number 2, big slate. But their power play has been tremendous. The Oilers penalty kill percentage wise, been okay at 82%. But they're not ranking out very well. So certainly a route there. The Oilers, all things considered, have been fairly disciplined this season, especially as of late, it's felt like. So I think power play builds on both sides are certainly going to be viable. I mean, look, the Oilers have the second-ranked power play in the league as well. So, it's not like there's any slouching going on there. So certainly like Heiskanen as an option tonight. I think there's some depth pieces in this game that you can kind of get to as well. Adam Henrique at $5,400. Probably a little bit more expensive than I would want to be paying for him on a showdown slate, but 13 shots on goal and 15 blocks in his last 10 games played. He's been providing some solid floor value, on a lot of the bigger slates and stuff like that as well. On the Dallas Stars side of things, I mean, I think it's kind of tough when you look at their depth pieces. I just don't really know how much you can trust this third or fourth line to get out there and do a lot of damage. I think Maverick Bourque is an okay one-off at $3K, drawing 13% ownership tonight. I don't know, man. It's going to be really funky. Like these like 1 game slates are super weird on DraftKings.
Yeah, I think Dallas's third line, the underlying metrics are pretty solid. I don't know the matchup's going to be the best, but the underlying metrics are there. Like, again, we're talking about if you're building 20 lineups tonight and you want to get super weird. I think getting down to Dallas 3 is a way to do that. The underlying metrics support it. You've got Bourque down there, like you said, at 3K. And I think they're okay. Rich Kovanen is down there as well at 2K. Like, I think he's literally seeing 0% ownership tonight. So, I think that you could get down there for super, if you want to get super different in deep tournaments tonight, you want to like maybe jam in McDavid and Leon on the other side. Okay. We're obviously not going to spend a ton of time on just a 1 game slate. So before we get out of here, just what are your thoughts here? Like, we've talked a lot about this potentially being a high scoring game. Obviously both power plays you just mentioned, second and third power plays in the league right now, both penalty kills, giving up a lot. Even though the Dallas Stars do a good job of actually killing penalties, they're still giving up a ton of chances. So this does have the feel of a slightly higher scoring game, especially if the penalties start to rack up. But like Stuart Skinner drawing 21% ownership tonight, Jake Ottinger 40% ownership. Are you planning on kind of getting to that ownership of the goalies, or are you going to fade goalies? Are you going to, obviously we're going to mix them in a little bit, but like, are you going to be more kind of just all in on offense tonight?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you look at this game from a game script perspective, I think this is certainly a fairly easy night, I would think, for the over to cash. The Oilers have played in some tighter checking games, some lower scoring games here as of late. But these games against Dallas always kind of have the feel of higher scoring affairs. Skinner has struggled against Dallas in his career, 3 wins in 8 regular season games, 333 goals against average, 876 save percentage, even though he was like absolutely nails against them in the playoffs last year. Jake Ottinger, meanwhile, good in the regular season, 5 wins, a shutout. 2.8 goals against average and a 907 save percentage. I personally try and fade goaltenders in showdown slates like as much as I can. Even like last night, like I didn't play any goaltenders in showdown or anything like that. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out well for you there, Brock. But
What,
I
UC Saros didn't work out last night? What do you
I
mean?
know, shocking, right? I'll be under the field on the goaltenders. I mean, I'll probably be at like 25% for each of them, I suppose. That feels fine to me. Probably going to mix in a captain or two for each of them as well, just in case, those things kind of go off. For me, like, especially with these bigger, the 1-game slates, I like the 20 max route. It gives you the option to really build a lot of different lineups out there.
Get crazy. For sure. Yeah, from the goalie perspective, I don't know if I'm going to get to much Stuart Skinner at all. I think he's a decent contrarian option, but it'll be pretty minimal. I do not mind Jake Odger. I do think the Dallas Stars are good enough defensively that they could potentially keep this, win this game like 4-2 or something like that. And Jake Odger could end up being optimal. One thing that we haven't touched on is Miro Rantanen is suspended, which means that, I do think that for one, the power play is probably not going to be as good, right? Like it's just he's an absolute stud. But after he was ejected last game, Tyler Seguin was one that moved up to the top power play unit in his place. So that's what we have projected this evening. So he's obviously feels like a little bit of better play. He doesn't have the best floor, but he's got I think 8 points in his last 9 games. He's shooting 40% during that time. So the floor is really bad, but I do think that he makes a lot of sense, obviously stacking on that top line. What is he looking at in terms of ownership tonight? Seguin is 17%. Just it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I like him a lot. Again, the floor is not great, but I think that if he's the one that gets moved up to that top power play unit, he's in a good spot there. I think we didn't really touch on Esa Lindell either. Obviously it's just been outrageously monster minutes for Miro Heiskanen, but Esa Lindell has seen a significant bump in ice time as well. 23, 25, and 25 in his last 3 games. So he should play big minutes. 6,400, a little bit more expensive. Zach, are there any things that you don't think we chatted about enough that you would like to get into before we take off?
No, I don't think so. As usual, try and find correlation. Basically any lineup you build, think of a game script and how the game is going to go. That's probably the best way that I can kind of advise you all to build your lineups tonight.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was trying to get to earlier. Like if those matchups do end up bearing out the way that we think that they are, possibly where it's Edmonton 1 versus Edmonton 1, Edmonton 2 versus Dallas 2, then I think like those need to be the way you kind of focus your builds. Like obviously there's a world in which both power plays just dominate and all the top dogs just go crazy. But like let's say Edmonton 1, if they're going up against Dallas 1 for 50% of the game and they just cave them in, like it's going to be tough for Dallas 1 to get there. So like trying to stack Edmonton 1 and Dallas 1, obviously difficult with the price tag, but then that also I think limits your upside a little bit. Where if you stack Edmonton 1 and Dallas 2, and you think, okay, maybe the Wyatt Johnson line is going to go out there and get the best of the Leon Draisaitl line, then I think that at least improves your upside because you've now got 2 lines, hopefully, if you get it right, spending the majority of their ice time and majority of the game, your lineup is spending in the offensive zone. So obviously every game is different. Logan Cooley can go out for 4 goals against Vegas just inexplicably. So like anything's possible in DFS. So just try to, like you said, I like that thought a lot. Like really try to figure out in your mind how you picture this game going and really build your lineup accordingly to that game script a little bit more than maybe what we do in a 7-game slate like yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's routes to go where you can build around, kind of big number guys like David Draisaitl, Robertson, Hintz. That's where the cheap plays kind of come in for the cheaper
100%.
captains, right? So, looking for guys who, might be able to get a shot bonus or a block bonus, especially, might luck their way into a goal. Those are certainly ways to get yourself different, is playing some of the cheaper guys in that captain slot.
Yep, and I think if we do think it's going to be a higher event game, which I don't necessarily know, like Dallas is a little tough to project sometimes, but I think focusing on these block bonus guys are the key way to get to the floor tonight with a block bonus. So Petrovic, Emberson, Kulak, Bichelle, even a little Capo Bianco, if he's on that second power play unit, I think is okay too. So a lot of cheap options, and I think you can get really creative tonight. Going to be a fun one. At least it's a good hockey game. It'd be worse if it was like, I'm not even going to disparage 2 teams. I'll just say at least it's a fun one. Okay, instead of a hat trick pick challenge, because obviously that's going to be difficult, let's go who you think is going to be the highest scoring player on the slate. So obviously that's going to be difficult. So make sure you're commenting as soon as the video is over, because the first Connor McDavid or first Jason Robertson comment, if that ends up being the highest scoring player, will get the $25 gift card to Nation Gear. So I hope you're watching live. I hope you're ready to comment as soon as the show ends here. Zach, who's your pick tonight?
Let's go with Leon Draisaitl. I can see him having a big game tonight.
Nice. I am going to go Tyler Seguin. I think he's going to get, why not? He's going to get hot. And plus I got this thing right here. That's my pick.
There you go. Can't blame you.
Great last name. Cheers. Good luck tonight. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow. 26 minutes on one game slate. Only we could do that. Cheers.
Cheers.